Now, Unit 2 is mainly about transformations. Interesting. Transformations. I know there's a movie. There's a movie that comes out with a similar name. Now, there are four transformations we're going to be dealing with. We have like translation, reflection, rotation, dilation. And then for today, we're going to start with just translation. But again, transformation, there's four transformations, and one of them is what we call translation. Okay. So don't be confused if you see one word. The homework assignment is called translation, and then I'm asking for transformation. Now, transformation is a figure that changes. Again, there's a movie that has a very similar name, and then you guys can see why it was called transformation or similar to transformation. Now, interesting though is that when I look at a question, I'm looking at, for example, my points here. I can get the values, I can get the coordinates of my points. Let me start with the points. Let's just say it in any order. I'm just not gonna, it doesn't matter. We have the values of point R, S, T, and U, right? I'm gonna be looking at the points. I can get the coordinates of each point. If we look at the coordinates of point R, the coordinates of point R are -2, +3. Because remember, starting from the origin, I go 2 to the left, so that's a -2. I go 3 up, so that's a +3. So that's how I got -2, +3. Again, how to write coordinates, we saw that in algebra. Point S, if we look at the coordinates of point S are -4, -1, +4, or +5 in this case. Coordinates of point T are 4, 3, and the coordinates of point U are 3, 2. You might be wondering, why do I need to get the coordinates of the points that I begin with? Well, on the instructions here, I'm asking find the coordinates of the vertices. A vertex or vertices in plural basically means the corner of each figure after the given transformation. So I'm just going to follow my points. But interesting though is when I change something, when I go through a transformation, my point R, to say that it changed, I'm going to call it R, and then I'm going to put this a little apostrophe there. Now, I'm not going to call it R apostrophe. In geometry, that is called prime. So I'm going to call it R prime. Again, you might be, oh, I remember the prime from a movie similar to transformations. They got all the names from geometry. So R prime gonna have some coordinates. I'll deal with the coordinates in a minute. I'm gonna also find the coordinates of S prime, T prime, and U prime. I'm gonna find the coordinates of each. Now, what is a transformation? What does a transformation do? Let me show you guys. I'm gonna make this things a little visual. So let me start with just the coordinate plane there. Let me start with my points there, my initial figure, SRTU. Now, a translation, what we're dealing with today is that I could grab the image, I could grab this image and I can either move it sideways. Remember where I started from. I can move it sideways, up and down. That's really what translation is. If you notice, the image it keeps the same shape, same size, same shape, same everything. The only thing is that I'm moving sideways, up and down. Now, some people tend to say that a transformation, I can also move it diagonal because I could start there and I could move my image. Oh, let me grab the whole image again. I could go and I could move diagonal. Well, technically, what I did in this case, I moved it down and then I moved it to the left. That's really what I did. It's not that I moved diagonal, I just moved down and sideways or sideways and down. Now, what we're going to be doing for transformation, we're going to be telling you move sideways, up or down. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at our notes here. When I look at the X value on the coordinates here, My X value is going to tell me right or left. If it says plus, I move to the right. If it says minus, I move to the left. So in this case, I'm going to be moving to the right one space. So it says grab this figure and move it to the right one space. And then on the Y coordinate, Y tends to tell me up or down. If it's up, this figure moves, if it's plus, this figure moves up. If it's minus, if the sign that I see it says minus, then it moves down. In this case, it's gonna move down. So remember, the X gonna tell me right or left, how many spaces, and the Y is gonna tell me up or down, how many spaces. So what this question number one says, we're gonna move each point, each of my initial vertices, we're going to move each of them one space to the right and one space down. So look, if I follow my point S, you guys see where point S is. Let me move it one space to the right, one space down, and that's going to be my new point S prime. Let's take a look at T. Let me move it one space to the right, one space down, and that's going to be my new T prime. The same thing I'm going to do for U, my point U, one to the right, one to the left. That's my U prime. And the same thing I'm going to do for my point R. One point to the right and one space down. I can connect my vertices. I can connect my figure. And now it looks like I move my figure, all of it. It kept the same shape. I just moved it one to the right and one down. Now that I have the new figure, I can find the coordinates. Okay, so the new coordinates, the R prime. R prime, the coordinates of R prime are negative 1. What's wrong with me? Negative 1, positive 2. The coordinates of S prime are 0, 4. The coordinates of T prime are 5, 2. And the coordinates of U prime are 4, 1. Okay, that's going to be my answer. I'm going to be asking for the coordinates. Now, in our case, because I want you to be able to work them out, what if you get the coordinate of point R? What if I get the coordinates of one of my points incorrect, but I get everything else correct? Kind of expect that to happen on the homework. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to ask you to put in each of these numbers individually. So for R prime, if this was my homework, R prime, I will see two spaces, two blanks on R prime. I want you to type in the X value, the Y value. Because again, what if you make a mistake only on one number, but not on the rest? I kind of want to be able to tell you for each of these numbers. Remember, when you submit my homework, it grades it and it tells you what's right and what's wrong. I want to be able to tell you exactly individually, each number tell you right or wrong. Because again, what if you only made one mistake on one number? I don't want to take points off the whole question because you only messed up on one value. All right, let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at question number 2. I'm going to move everything, right? So my X value here on the X, it tells me right or left. And then my Y here with the Y, it tells me up or down. I can see that for the Y, because it's minus, it's going to be moving down. Remember, if it's going to move up, it says Y plus. Okay, so I know it's going down. And I know on the X value, if it's minus, it goes to the left. If it's plus, X plus something, it goes to the right. Now here, look, I have the X by itself. There's no minus, there's no plus. So sideways, don't move. Okay, interesting, interesting. On the X, if the X is by itself, there's no plus something or minus something, don't move sideways. If the Y tells me up or down, but if the Y was by itself, then don't move up or down. Okay, so let me get the coordinates of each of my points here. I can see my points. Let's start with C, D, E, and F. I'm going to get the coordinates of each of these. Point C, I can see the coordinates are 1, 0. Point D, I see the coordinates are 0, 4. For point E, I have 1, 4, and coordinates F are going to be 3, 2. And I'm interested in getting C prime, D prime, E prime, F prime. And again, there's an X and a Y value for each of these. There's a comma that separates them. There's a space after the comma. But the good thing is that I don't have to worry about typing all that. I just have to worry about typing the numbers in the homework. Okay. So each of my points sideways, we're not moving. We're just moving 4 down. So if I look at my point C, let me look 4 down. That's my new value C prime. If I look at D, let me go 4 down. That's my new value D prime. If I look at E, let me go 4 down. That's E prime. And for point F, let me go 4 down. Now, when I connect my points, my initial figure, the black one in this case, and my remaining figure, my final figure, the blue one, they should look the same, right? Same size, same shape, same everything. Nothing changed, just placement. Okay, what are the coordinates of C prime? Well, coordinates of C prime are 1, -4. Coordinates of D prime are 0, 0. Coordinates of E prime are 1, 0. And coordinates of F prime are 3, -2. Now, if you don't like to graph the points, if that's a little difficult, let me show you guys another way how to do this. Technically, the values, I got the coordinates of the first points, right? Of the initial point. Question number 1, I got the coordinates of R, S, T, U. Notice, if you want to do this mathematically, notice that for my Y values, or my X values, for my X to become the new X values, each of those numbers, I just added 1, right? -2 plus 1 is -1. -1 plus 1 is 0. 4 plus 1 is 5, and 3 plus 1 is 4. On the X values, I just added 1 because that's what I was told. On the Y values, I subtracted 1. For this Y values to become the new Y values, 3 minus 1 is 2, 5 minus 1 is 4, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. I subtracted 1 on the Y's because that's what it said so. So you can do this either mathematically, right? All the operations, just do the instructions as they tell you. In question number 2, what I will do is leave the X alone and then subtract 4 from the Y. Mathematically speaking, that's what I will do. You want to do it visual. You want to move the points, do as you wish. All right. Now looking at question number 3. Well, actually, before I move on to question number 3, let me highlight this thing that I gave you, like questions 1 and 2 in my notes, or the first 5 questions on your homework. I give you a rule on the top, and then you have to come up with the coordinates, right? You have to come up with the figure. I gave you a rule, and you come out with the coordinates, right? You come out with the figure. For the second part, I'm going to switch things around. I'm going to give you the figure. Notice how there's a black and a blue one. There's an original picture and there's a transformation one. I translated it and I want you to give me the rule. Okay. I know for today's translation, so very, very good chance that all of my rules for today are translation. I want you to get used to choosing translation because the quiz on Friday and the unit test, we're going to combine all transformations. Okay, so looking at this one. Here, it seems like I moved the picture. Now, I know I can see black and blue. I can see the difference. And I know the original picture In this case, the black pictured, I see the original because all my letters are just regular letters. There's V, W, U, and X, regular letters. On the blue pictured, I notice that all my letters have the little apostrophe. V prime, W prime, X prime, U prime. So that little apostrophe, you see the apostrophe in each of the letters? I know that's the second picture. Okay, so what exactly happened here? Let me follow my point W. Okay, I'm gonna follow my point W. It seems like I go to the left. Okay, I go to the left. I'm going from W to W prime. I can count the spaces. I go five to the left. And then it seems that it goes up two. So it goes five to the left, up two. Follow any other point. Follow point U. I'm not gonna mark anything. Just visually follow point U, go five to the left, two up, and then you should end at U prime. Same thing with V, five to the left, two up, and the same thing with X, five to the left, two up, and you finish with X prime. Follow each of these points. Notice that each of them you go five to the left and two up. So my rule, we're going to start it with translation because it is a translation. It moved X wide becomes. Now, some of you might be asking, Sherlyn, so how am I going to write this whole thing down? It doesn't matter that if I go capital T for translation, lowercase t, do I capitalize things, how many spaces? Don't you worry. Okay. For your homework, you're going to choose. There's choices. It's going to be translation, rotation, reflection, dilation. Again, today's homework is going to be all translation, but on the quiz this Friday, you have all four combined. So I need you to get used to choosing what it is. So translation. Okay, boom, I chose this. This is part of my rule. I'm just going to put it squared. That's not my whole answer. And then there's a space here. When I'm typing in my homework, there's another space. What do I have to write? Okay. Now, let me type this in blue so we see. First of all, I need to have my parentheses open. And I start looking on the X, on the sideways. What did I do? I moved five to the left. So let me type in X minus five. Lowercase x. Okay, don't go uppercase X. X minus five. And then let me put a comma. Then let me type in a space. So let me emphasize there's a space. And then up or down. It seems like I go up two. So I'm gonna type in y plus two. And yes, you will have to type all that. Make sure you have your parentheses open and close. You have x minus five, y plus two. There's a comma and a space that separates them. And we're good. All right. Let's take a look at another example. Example four. Let me follow a point. Doesn't matter which one I follow. Let me follow point H. So I have to go from H to H prime. Again, I can see black and blue, but what if I had printed that you only see one color? Okay, so now here, let me go. It seems like I go sideways. I go to the right. And I can count how many squares. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five. I move five squares. And then up or down, I don't move. I just move sideways. Okay. So now for my homework, when I'm typing it in, remember there's two spaces. When you're doing your homework, there's two spaces. For the first one, it's a list. I have to follow to choose, and I'm gonna choose translation. To double make sure that it is translation, quickly take a look at all of your points, all the corners. Did they move five to the right? Yes, they did. Okay, good. So that means it is translation. So this translation, and then it says X and Y become, okay. Now becomes what? First of all, I have to open and close my parentheses. Make sure you have that, open and close parentheses. So I move 5 to the right. So let me write that as x plus 5 with a comma. Don't forget that to type in a space afterwards. And then up or down. Well, we didn't move up or down, but I still had to put the y there. Let me put my parentheses here at the end of the y. Don't put y plus 0, just y by itself. The only space that I see is the one after the comma. Okay? So that's basically how we're going to do our work. Any questions, please reach out to me.